You know what's happening. The dynamics are clear. If you feel like you need to beg, that's not love, it's deep-seated neediness. It's a vicious cycle where you become dependent, and at the same time, the other person distances themselves. This person disappears, ignores promises, but doesn't fulfill, and you beg, justify, settle, persevere. There's no love in that. There's a structure that feeds the waiting, the expectation that one day things will change. But what changes is only your weariness. You try to understand why. In truth, you don't need to. The pattern is obvious. The connection you seek is not real. It's an echo of what should be. When someone loves, they act. When someone cares, they respond. When someone values you, they never make you beg. The rest is manipulation. The bond persists because you sustain it. Not because it's strong, but because you hesitate to cut it off. And that hesitation becomes part of who you are. You believe it's a matter of time when in fact it's a matter of choice. You cling to the idea that there might be change, but you remain in the same position. Waiting is your decision, and that choice has a cost. The harsh reality is nothing changes as long as you remain unconditionally available. The planted neediness feeds on your desire to be seen. Decide whether you want to live in this endless cycle, or if you will finally give yourself the value you deserve. This is not about waiting for the right moment. This is about stopping the acceptance of what is not love. The truth has already been presented. You ask yourself many times what's wrong, why the connection is so fragile, what you did to get to this point. What you don't realize is that the answer is not within you, but in the actions of the other. That's the truth you avoid facing. The dissatisfaction is a reflection of the indifference. While you worry about understanding the other's behavior, they simply act as if nothing is at stake. He ignores you, lives his life, and you remain there, stuck in a never-ending wait. And this fuels your own despair. The cycle repeats. You seek answers where there are no questions to be asked. What does he do? He disappears again. It's a pattern you already know by heart. Still, you wait. You wait for change, revelation, the return. But the truth is that the revelation has already happened, and you chose to ignore it. The idea that things will change is a trap that you created yourself. Each time you allow the other to leave without a response, you reinforce his belief that you will always wait. Each unanswered message, each uncomfortable silence, you accept them as part of your reality. Behaviors are choices, and even in the absence of choice, you choose to stay. Any day now, we'll talk. That's what you say to yourself. But when do you really talk to yourself? When do you prioritize yourself? You legitimize your needs but forget to respect them. And the question is, what do you really value? The recognition of someone who doesn't see your effort, or the respect that comes from within? The bond strengthens with each moment you persist, not out of love, but due to your own denial of the situation. This game is not just about love, it's about the impact of this relationship on who you are. You shape yourself to his behavior. With each mistake, you adjust your expectations. With each failure, you diminish your dreams. And it's exhausting. Exhausting to the point where you ask yourself, is it me? And the answer is clear and cold. No, it's not you. It's the dynamic that has been established. The need for approval becomes a burden. And when you're trapped in this cycle, you lose sight of what really matters. If you are not a priority, then what are you really? Just an option, a possibility. And that shouldn't be enough for anyone, least of all for you. When you finally absorb this, the change begins to make sense. It's not about trying to fix what's not broken. It's about breaking away from a destructive pattern. The real challenge lies in stepping away from this cycle and looking at yourself with the same intensity that you look at the other person. But you hesitate. The fear of letting go is stronger than the desire to be free. And that's a sign that dependency has been cultivated. No one is born needing crumbs of affection. This emptiness was constructed. And now it's up to you to decide whether you'll continue to feed this construction or tear it down, transforming it into something new. It's a difficult decision. What's at stake is your self-esteem. The desire to be loved does not justify accepting less than you deserve. The pain of detachment can seem overwhelming, but living in doubt is a way of accepting mediocrity. Different paths open up when you choose no longer to define your worth by someone else's actions. What you want is to be seen. What you want is true recognition, and that will never come from someone who feels comfortable leaving you waiting. So ask yourself, how long will you sustain this cycle? How far will this search for approval go? There are paths ahead of you. Paths that don't require you to beg, that don't ask you to justify your worth. The truth is simple: you are enough. Not because someone says so, but because you recognize that in yourself. Decide then whether you will continue to spend your time in a one-sided relationship or seek reciprocity. The choice is yours alone, and it defines not just your future, but who you are in this moment. You don't need any more empty promises. What you need is an answer for yourself, and the answer has already been presented. What you do with this truth is what truly matters. Do you know the feeling that something is missing? Something you should have but do not possess. This absence transforms into a black hole, swallowing your self-esteem. It is this relentless quest for approval that keeps you stuck in a situation that no longer serves you. He appears only when it is convenient, and you cover yourself with justifications. You look around and try to find answers. You think you can change the dynamic, but every attempt only reinforces the pattern. Promises are not real. Each "I will change" is a mask. A delusion you allow yourself to believe. The weariness is cumulative. You feel more tired, further from who you truly are. You watch life go by while you remain halted in this waiting. Your friends, your hobbies, your passions, all fall by the wayside. Since this person appeared, you have become a reflection of what he desires, and the more you adapt, the less space there is for yourself. You shape yourself, lose parts of yourself, try to figure out where the mistake lies. The truth is, there is no mistake on your part. There is another's choice to keep you in this limbo. And this limbo begins to feel like a prison. You deal with emotions as if they were a bargaining chip, but the truth is, you should not feel indebted for being who you are. When someone loves you, they put you first. When they respect you, they do not make you question yourself. You know this, but still, you continue to wait for a change that never arrives. Your days are marked by doubts, and this doubt leads to emotional exhaustion. You replay scenarios in your mind, searching for a logical reason. Each day, without answers, the echo of your own voice becomes more distant. You ask yourself, why won't I be enough? But the answer lies in who you give power to. This internal battle is exhausting, and all of this happens because you still believe it is worth it. You remain in this weight, stuck in hope, and this hope turns into an unbearable burden. Meanwhile, the other lives their life, without thinking of you, without considering your needs. And that hurts. It hurts deeply. But the pain isn't the main point. What really hurts is the denial of reality. Each silence from them is an affirmation of what you should already know. Each unanswered message is a reminder of what you have been enduring. Love is not a currency. It should not be something you constantly seek. These moments of solitude should not become your standard of living. When you allow yourself to be in the background, everything you build crumbles. Over time, your essence fades. You find yourself wondering who you were before entering this vicious cycle. And then you begin to notice the changes, but not the changes in the other person, your own, how you adapted, how you set aside your dreams, your individuality. You notice a more fragile version of yourself. The weight of dissatisfaction becomes unbearable. The feeling of being lost is real. Your identity fades as you try to adjust to the expectations created by someone else. The desire to be loved transforms into a desperate yearning, a longing that consumes every part of you. Your worth should not depend on how the other person acts. Recognition must come from within, and the moment you allow yourself to question this dynamic, you begin to see the possibility of change. The truth is that what you really seek is freedom. Freedom from having to explain yourself. Freedom from having to beg. This is the liberation you need to find. When you realize that worth comes from self-awareness, something begins to change. It's not simple, but it's necessary. Looking at yourself requires courage. Stopping yourself from being treated as an option requires strength, and this strength must come from within. By understanding that you need to prioritize yourself, a world of new possibilities opens up. You begin to take firm steps, small but continuous. The first step is to see the relationship for what it really is. The emptiness you feel is not your fault. It is the consequence of allowing someone to choose not to see you. Every new decision takes shape. You stop justifying the unjustifiable. For this, you need to confront the fears that arise. The fear of being alone, the fear of not being loved, the fear of the unknown. But it is in this confrontation that the opportunity for growth resides. You no longer need to accept crumbs. You no longer need to maintain relationships that do not bring returns. Living your own uniqueness is a revolutionary act. When you recognize your own worth, what comes from outside becomes secondary. What matters is the connection with yourself. This step is painful but essential. The truth is not light, it weighs. However, by absorbing it, you liberate yourself. Dependency is a cycle that can be broken. And when you rise, refuse to accept less, life begins to make sense again. This is not about the absence of pain, but about the choice not to live in subservience. Your future depends solely on your decisions. You will no longer live as a shadow, you are more than that. Acknowledge this, and change begins the moment you decide to stop waiting. You rise, but there is still a part of you that hesitates. The fear of the unknown still haunts. Life may seem like a blank canvas, but the anxiety of possibility paralyzes you. You question whether you are indeed capable of living outside of this mold, this need for acceptance. But what if, deep down, this search for approval was just a reflection of what you set aside? You ignored your own passions, your desires, and even your essence. This denial created an empty space, an echo that calls you back to what no longer serves. The memories come like waves, bringing to the surface every moment of complacency, every time you kept quiet in the name of peace, every time your smile became a disguise. You have gotten so lost that you no longer know who you really are. When you look in the mirror, you see someone who is distressed, someone who awaits a return that has never come. The feeling of frustration turns into a pile of accumulated resentments. The truth is that you have become responsible for sustaining this illusion, and while you try to piece things together, the other person keeps living. He does not think of you. He simply moves on, and you are paralyzed in a repetitive scene. The unfulfilled promises echo in your mind as a warning. The cycle does not change because you still believe there is hope in the shadows of the past. Your heart is heavy with the expectation of something that does not come to fruition. This weight only breeds disillusionment, and you realize that the pain no longer comes solely from the absence of the other, but from your own persistence in this senseless game. With each rejection, each neglect, a part of you falls apart. Each silence becomes a scream that cries out for freedom. You wish to break the chains that bind you to this one-sided relationship, but the reality is that these chains were built with your consent, and to break them you need to look life in the eye. The fear of being alone is suffocating. But the loneliness you feel now is not the result of an external void. It is the consequence of not being the priority in your own life, and this recognition is painful. Ask yourself, what do you really fear? Abandonment or the possibility of finding yourself again? Freedom can be terrifying, but it is also the only way to reconnect with yourself. When you begin to hear your own voice, the echo of the other becomes distant. Understanding this is an act of courage. Each step toward freedom is an act of rebellion against installed dependence. You are not an option, you are a choice, and that choice must be your first priority. The path ahead reveals itself to be full of uncertainties indeed, but on the other hand, you are no longer subject to anyone's expectations. You begin to realize that self-love is not a destination, but a journey in itself, and in this journey, you must go through discomfort. The discomfort that comes from confronting what was left behind. The dependency that you cultivated does not easily dissolve. It is a process that requires an inner strength you may have forgotten you possess. Facing this transformation, you will feel anger at yourself, for the lack of care, for the forced adaptation. However, this anger is necessary as it pushes you forward. It is the fuel that can ignite the fire of change. Self-worth grows as you begin to implement boundaries. Boundaries that are clearly defined, not only for others but for yourself. The absence of boundaries allowed pain to slowly seep into your life. Now, you must protect yourself. And when you finally say no to the behavior that diminishes you, you start to re-establish a connection with yourself. Every conscious choice to respect yourself is a step toward autonomy. And this autonomy is the key to emotional freedom. Every day that you prioritize yourself, the weight of dependence begins to diminish. It will not be easy, and there will be days when you will wish to return to the old familiar. But remember, familiarity is not synonymous with love. You no longer need to hide behind justifications. Every decision you make becomes a new pattern. You begin to realize that you are no longer waiting for external answers. The answer lies within you. If you do not value yourself, who will? If you do not respect yourself, the indifference of others will be the norm. You have the power to redefine what you accept in your life. And this redefinition is true liberation. You are not an option. You are the choice, and the choice is yours.